Good morning. Today is Thursday, January 7th. We'll be picking up on our lesson where we left off yesterday. There's still, I think, 2 or 3 of you still owe current events for the second quarter. We only have 2.5 weeks left in the quarter, so let's see if we can get something done. You may have heard there were some events in the nation's capital yesterday. Might be worth doing a current event on. Do a summary and be able to point out on the map where it took place and everything. Okay, so lesson this week, and actually it's going to carry into next week as well for the LET ones, is Unit 1, Chapter 2, Lesson 5. It is reading for meaning. So at this point you should have already read through text. So we'll have a few questions here just to help spur your memory or again help with the comprehension piece from what you've already read. So what 3 types of questions can you ask to help you comprehend written materials? You've got several choices there. And as you can see, it's already checked for empirical or fact-based questions, values or opinion questions, and analytical or definition questions. You're looking for deeper meaning. Some things that we're working with. At this point, you guys should know these are going to be some of your quiz questions. Is where I draw a lot of the material from. Is directly from the quiz. I'm sorry, where the questions here in the presentation, but also through the textbook and elsewhere. Okay. To deepen your understanding of complex written materials, when should you do a mini review of the material? And again, goes back to the reading. What did it talk about? It talked about at the end of each paragraph. Most of what you're doing right now is not a very extended reading, so even the text material itself, I think it's only about you have a little bit longer lesson, so it's about 10 or 12 paragraphs total. Most of your lessons are only 6 to 8 paragraphs. So again, take a look at that. One technique for comprehending difficult reading material is to explain what you have read to another person. Very much that is true. So if any of you have actually tried this, I think you may find it to be very useful to you. Or again, if you are getting tutoring or something like that, maybe read something and then explain it back to the tutor, because you may find that they're often doing that for you. Think about strategies you use to comprehend reading. Have you ever thought about it? Are you paying attention to the fact that you are in fact doing it, other than when you have tests and things like that? Let's see. You guys in 9th grade, so you're not doing the PSATs yet. That'll be next year, or year after. Yeah, but you've got keystones and things like that you have to take care of. So okay. Since we do not have the ability to break you into teams, we're not in the classroom, you're going to have to go back and read all 4 strategies and look at each one: the directed reading, thinking activity, the generalized interactions between schemata and text. You're going to need to look up what does the word schemata mean. That is one of your keywords for this lesson. That's the gist. The other one is the DRTA. Think alouds. What is a think aloud? I bet most of you have done this or used this, or your teachers have used it with you in the past. So again, dig back into that text, take a look at it, and see if you can recognize it. And then question answer relationships. That's something that I tend to use a lot of. I like to find relationships between things that demonstrates critical thinking capabilities by you. Again, ties your existing knowledge to new topics or a new perspective, new ways of looking at things. So question answer relationships, that's something I tend to use a lot of. Okay, again, since we are not in session yet, we are looking to go into a hybrid model starting next week. Take one of those 4 strategies that you feel that you understand and explain that to somebody else. That's what I'm asking you to do as far as a presentation. You're not going to do it here in the classroom, which would work on your oral presentation skills. That's, again, not possible right now. Okay, exercise 2, reading comprehension strategies to take notes. So let's go find where that one is at. Here we go. Reading comprehension strategies. Again, you just read about those. did not have them presented by your peers, but you know, you'll have to look at each one. So I want you to be able to explain how does the strategy work. That's what you're doing with this exercise here. Will you consider using the strategy? Explain. You know, and it's really think of the right situation. I need you to be a little more creative. Don't just easy answer would be say no. I'll never use this strategy, which is a bunch of BS, guys. Come on, let's focus. Let's learn. Have more tools in your kit bag than what you have today. Okay. So look at all 4 strategies, and there may be certain situations where you would use any one of them. One might be more useful in a history class. One might be more useful in a math class or science. So let's figure out which ones might be best used in what situation. Okay, so flow map, that's the directed reading and thinking activity. You know, one event leads to another. Gist, was that the generalized information of schemata and text? How does that one work? Again, step by step, work through it, explain that one. And if you actually open it in Adobe Acrobat as opposed to doing it in your browser, you should be able to directly type in, you know, you should be able to directly type into Adobe. And the last one, the question answer relationships. Here with JROTC being an elective class, again, and it's tied to civics, things that you should already have at least some basic understanding, but we're applying leadership principles, values, competencies, things like that. That's where this one comes in, developing those relationships. So question answer relationships, how does that work? All right, so again, that's in your classroom, class materials for this lesson. It's all connected, they all have the same title initially, the U1C2L5, Unit 1, Chapter 2, Lesson 5, reading for meaning, and then it has obviously this exercise 2, exercise 3 is coming up next. We'll take a look at that here a little later. Okay, back to your presentation piece. So here's the question. Explain the direct reading thinking activity strategy for reading comprehension. Here it is used to predict the author's purpose in writing. You form predictions of the content of materials based on the information you acquire. Again, reading this for you, I don't like doing that, but I think it's, for right now, it's the best way to reinforce it, to both see it and hear it in your case. And then, again, ties to our previous activity. Okay. Explain the gist strategy of reading comprehension. Gist means the main point. In this strategy, you focus on the short passages of 3 to 5 paragraphs and create summaries for each passage. So when you guys are doing your current events, most of those are fairly short articles. You're doing a summary of what's going on, and you put in your own paragraph, one paragraph summary of whatever the article is about. So you already have some experience doing this, and you're also talking about, main point. When I have you write about the one sentence of relevance, why is it important? Why does it matter? So again, this is one that you should already be familiar with. You're already doing. Okay, name the 4 reading comprehension strategies. And again, you've already had directed reading, thinking activity, gist, think alouds, and question answer relationships. So now some time for self-analysis. Your current strategies, how effective are they? So that's what you have to look at. Are you using any of these strategies already? And if things aren't working for you very well, or again, put more tools in your kit bag, look at these 4 options and look at some of those that you can use. And think of the situations where you might use those. All about helping your reading comprehension. Okay. We're going to do a little practice thing here with exercise 3. I'm not going to assign you any additional reading. We're just going to go with this one. Okay. And, wrong one. Let's go to, here we go. Reading comprehension strategies practice. Okay. So I'm just going to read it through with you. You can take a look here on the screen, or again, you have the ability to download this since that is in your folder. Choose which one of the comprehension strategies you are going to use, whether you're going to summarize each paragraph, do the main point, do the gist, do the think aloud or whatever. So let me go ahead and start reading it, and that'll be your piece, because it's fairly long here. So if you go to pages 3 and 4, write down what strategy you chose to use up here, and then predicted purpose, step you took to acquire appropriate information, summary of information gathered, step you took to acquire appropriate information, and summary of information gathered. So we're already looking ahead to see what is being asked, okay? So that in itself is one of the strategies, or a portion of it anyway. So step you took to acquire appropriate information, summary of information gathered, step you took to, again, that's for each paragraph, if you use the strategy that employs that. Then at the end, a reading summary and reflection on strategy selected. So I'm shaping that your purpose right now, so you understand what is going to be asked, and you may need to, as you're doing this on your own, read just a single paragraph, come back down here and do this, or you, again, for the video right now, you can pause it. If it helps for me to read it to you, that's awesome. Let's build off that. Okay, it is a somewhat lengthy one, and we'll end it after this for today. We'll pick up on this tomorrow and next week. Okay, the making of the Constitution happens to be very appropriate to what's going on with our government right now. So, classifying governments. There are several ways to classify governments. The most used system derives from the Greek philosopher Aristotle. In this system, governments belong to one of three groups: autocracy, oligarchy, or democracy. So if you don't know what those are, this might be the time to pause, look those up. Or it may continue, it'll explain in some detail anyway. Okay. Autocracy is a system of government in which the power and authority to rule are in the hands of a single individual. Throughout history, the most frequently occurring form of autocracy is a monarchy. Monarchs usually acquire their realms by inheritance, and their subjects customarily address them by the title of king or queen. Although some nations still use this system of government today, many of these heads of state have lost all or part of their powers to rule. In the following picture, Queen Elizabeth I, 1533 to 1603, was one of the strongest rulers in English history. Her rule ended just prior to the American experience, which began in 1607, when England founded its first permanent colony at Jamestown, Virginia. Another form of autocracy is dictatorship. Dictators gain power through their skills and abilities rather than inheritance. So there, if you're going to summarize a paragraph, let's do that now. Next one. Oligarchy is a system of government in which a small elite group holds power. The source of power is usually wealth, control of the military, social position, or some combination of these. The former Soviet Union was a recent example of an oligarchy. A small group of leaders still rules China. The most prevalent form of oligarchy is aristocracy. Aristocrats also inherit their positions. They hold governmental and economic power and claim superiority over the common people, claiming to do what is best for them, whether they know it or not. I'm adding that piece. So again, chance to do a quick summary of that paragraph. Democracy is a system of government in which the people rule. It may take one of two forms: direct democracy or representative indirect democracy. Direct democracy is possible only in a relatively small society where citizens can meet together regularly to decide key issues and solve problems. Representative democracy allows for the election of officials who represent the people in carrying out the duties and responsibilities of the government. Virtually all democracies with large populations are representative democracies, with the United States and Great Britain as two of the oldest. Again, another opportunity to do a quick summary here. During the 1600s, people from many countries came to the New World to establish their home, obtain political and religious freedom, and make their fortune. As the English populated the 13 colonies along the East Coast, they established their own independent governments, each fashioned after the ideas, political experiences, and beliefs they brought with them. These same factors governed England for centuries. The English contribution. As political systems matured, governments incorporated new ideas. Notable philosophers came on the scene to spur the people in their pursuit for freedom from the one-man rule, the main political system for centuries. In 1651, Thomas Hobbes suggested in his book Leviathan the idea of a social contract between individuals. His writings stressed that before governments, men lived in a state of nature where they had complete freedom to do as they pleased, provided they were powerful and resourceful enough to do so. His social contract theory presented a bleak picture of human life as nasty, brutish, and short. He argued that government must be strong and even repressive to keep people from lapsing into a savage existence. Although denounced in his day, this book has a continuing influence on Western political thought. Looking at the events of the past summer and yesterday, maybe he was right. I don't know. We'll see what your thoughts are on that here a little later. James Harrington was a political theorist. So again, opportunity to summarize paragraphs here. You're doing it in case of political theorists or philosophers. James Harrington was a political theorist who published the book Oceana in 1656. He argued that there were only two types of governments, either a government of men, not of laws, or one of laws and not of men. If men controlled the government, the result was tyranny because powerful individuals would rule without restriction. However, in a government controlled by laws, government officials would be subject to all of society's rules, and they could not tyrannize their fellow human beings. John Locke, another English philosopher, published two treatises of civil government in 1690. Contradicting Hobbes, Locke maintained that the original state of nature was happy and characterized by reason and tolerance. He argued that all human beings were born free and equal to pursue life, health, liberty, and possessions. Sound familiar, guys? Might be able to make a relationship here if we were to use the question and answer relationships piece to our the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness from our own Constitution. Well, the Declaration of Independence. Okay, it was the responsibility of the state, formed by the social contract and guided by natural law, to guarantee those rights. If governments failed to protect those natural rights, then people could change the government. His writing and ideas were a major influence on political thought during that period. Although the king did not agree with his ideas, the newly emerging American colonies readily accepted them. Additionally, the policy Locke set down on checks and balances later became a part of the U.S. Constitution. So again, relationships, how did that influence our own form of government today? All right, the French contribution. The spirit of freedom was not just confined to England. Other countries emerged from centuries of serfdom, a system of hereditary submission of slaves or serfs who lived and worked on the land of their lords, to place their stamp on the growing movement for freedom. Baron de Montesquieu, a French political philosopher, published The Spirit of Laws in 1748, only 28 years prior to the Declaration of Independence. His ideas involved the separation of powers among three separate branches of government. Under his plan, the legislative branch, or Parliament, would pass the laws, the executive branch, or the king, would enforce them, and the judicial branch would settle disputes that arose as the government enforced them. Although previous theorists suggested separating the legislative branch from the executive branch, Montesquieu was the first to suggest an independent judiciary. His ideas were an effort to prevent the concentration of power in the hands of a few. Again, it should be familiar, so do a summary of that paragraph. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who was born in Switzerland but considered to be a French political philosopher, took his cue from Locke. Rousseau wrote The Social Contract in 1762, which contributed to the thought and debate of the times with his views on freedom of the individual and the shape of government. He believed that all human beings in a state of nature were born free. Therefore, he proposed that the main duty of government, preferably a direct democracy, was to compromise the freedom of nature with the necessary order of a civilized, stable society. America created an environment where democratic reforms and political theories could emerge. Although there were Spanish and French settlements in North America, the people who lived in the original 13 colonies that later became the United States were English, or mostly English. English rule, I suppose, how to phrase it, because there are lots of immigrants already from other countries present. Thus, it was English practices as well as English and French ideas about government that found their way into the New World, a world that was ideally suited to nurture and develop those practices and ideas. Consequently, the American leaders who wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution knew well the political ideas of these five individuals. Okay. So your task now, you can either print it out or do it digitally here with the PDF, is to go back through, if you've not already started doing so, as by pausing the video as we're doing it, work through these different components here. Okay, just predicted purpose of the text selection, back from what we originally thought. Steps you took to acquire appropriate information, and just work your way on through. Summary of information gathered. Again, and that repeats a couple of times based on You can either do it by paragraph for like the first group, or again, you have these groupings. You have classifying governments as the first series of paragraphs, the English contribution is the next series, and then the French contribution is the final series. So it gives you some structure there. We'll talk a little bit about this in tomorrow's class, and then well, next week will be the final portions of the presentation piece, again, which you have access to here, and we'll get to the point of actually doing the quiz then next Friday. So that will end today's lesson. If you have any questions, get on the chat or email me, and I will respond as soon as possible. Have a great day.